Cross about, my friends. I hope this finds you well. I want to share with you something today. Before we go into anything else, I want to share with you this. This was a present that was given to me upon my ordination to the priesthood. And there's a little prayer on it that I wanted to read to you so that it's relevant to today. As I live each day, may I do my part to make one difference, to touch one heart, and through each day may it be my goal to encourage one mind and to inspire one soul. That's beautiful, isn't it? It was given to me when I was ordained priest. And it sits on my windowsill, right here, right in front of my desk, right where I need to see it. So when I sit in front of this computer, whether I'm writing a reflection here, whether I'm writing a sermon for church, whether I'm writing a funeral address, anything, I have that here. And it reminds me, because this is relevant to what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start with a question. Don't worry, you don't have to answer in the comments or anything like that. But I'll ask the question. What's your deepest hope? Your deepest dream? Your deepest desire? And I don't mean something you want or something you wish would happen. No, what are those things that you would give everything you are for? That one thing that you would channel absolutely everything that makes you the beautiful child of God that you are, would channel all of that into. That one thing that's got a hold of you and won't let go. That one thing that prayer that never goes away, that earworm that never stops singing. Those things which you would invest everything you have into. The thing you'd give anything for. Dig deep down, and as you dig, as you chuck down through what makes you you, and you want to look for your answer. Let me ask you this, what are the hopes that seem too good to be true? What are the things that bring tears to your eyes when you think, God, what if? The things that you've never shared with anyone because they're too precious to risk. They're fragile as a spider's web, and yet they're strong enough to keep you going through anything you face. Now, my friend, speak that hope, that dream, that desire. Speak it quietly to yourself now, wherever you are. Speak it quietly to yourself. Because that's a seed. That's a seed for your life that you want to see grow. It's asking something of you. It's a calling. It's an insistence waiting to be given existence. Now the gospel today, take a moment, sit with what we just talked about. The gospel today tells us that Jesus says, listen, he's getting their attention. Listen, a sower went out to sow. Seems so simple and innocuous, doesn't it? A sower going out to sow. It's probably something the sower did every single planting season since he could walk. But where would we expect a sower to sow their seeds? Where do you want to sow the seeds that are in your life? These seeds of these hopes and dreams that we just talked about. Because you want to sow them in good soil, don't you? That's what you want to do. Sowers sow seeds in the hope of a good crop. They hope that growth will come. They sow the seed with a mind to the future. And those of us with green fingers, you'll know exactly what I mean. I'm not green-fingered in the slightest. I ain't got a clue. But on Wednesday, I was at a Mothers Union charity auction, and some beautiful grown produce had been donated to the auction. And I was truly in awe. But it got me thinking, whoever planted that seed did so not knowing where that produce was going to end up. And yet there it was, benefiting charity. Fighting the good fight, one cucumber at a time. Now, something that's always challenged me about this particular gospel is that nobody sows seeds knowing that they won't grow. Nobody throws seeds on the ground knowing full well that the birds are going to eat them, knowing full well they're going to fall down between the rocks, knowing full well they'll be choked by thorns and weeds. And yet, That's exactly what the sower does. We don't know if it's intentional or not. We don't. But that's what we get told, that he sows these seeds in these particular areas. Why does the sower do that? And that's the question that kept coming up to me as I was sitting with this particular reading, as I was sitting putting this video together. Why? Why in the world would you sow seeds on a path among the rocks and among the thorns? It makes no sense to me. But I think there's more to this parable than we initially discuss. You see, Friday night I was discussing art with someone who's very special to me in Lithuania. And she was saying that her favourite, of course, is Vincent van Gogh, which, cool, yeah, brilliant artist. And I was saying my favourite is Dali. And as we were sort of talking through why each one is our favourite and whatnot, I said that I like art that encourages me to think beyond the scope of what we're seeing. So we get a snapshot, we get a painting that's there. What's going on around it? What's the vista? You know, what we're getting a shot, but what's happening around here? And it's a similar thing with this gospel reading. Was the sower just walking along and throwing the seeds willy-nilly, you know? Did he have a shotgun loaded with seeds and we just shoot them at the floor and hoping what happened? I know he really didn't, because that wasn't a thing back then, but it's an interesting image, is it not? Was he just throwing seeds everywhere he went and hedging his bets? And one of the usual interpretations of this parable is something along these lines, that Jesus is the sower, he's a generous sower, he sows seeds in every kind of soil. And the only question is, of course, what kind of soil are we? Are we rocky, hard, thorny, or are we good soil? And that is an amazing sermon. That's exactly the way I first looked at it. There will be sermons up and down this country today preached exactly on this. And you know what? Good on them. Because it's a message that's valid and it needs to get out there. I've preached that exact sermon quite a few times. But today, reading this and prepping this, a thought occurred. And so I thought, you know what? We're going to come at this differently today. For so long, and rightly so, this parable is about generosity, the sower's generosity. But what if we look around the snapshot? What if Jesus is drawing our attention to the sower's technique? And maybe he's even questioning it a little. I know, stay with me, I know. You see, at what point does the extravagant generosity of throwing the seeds out willy-nilly, at what point does that become reckless? At what point does it become wasteful? You see, scattering seeds here, there and everywhere, it could be seen as just going through the motions. He's just walking along, thinking of what he's doing that Sabbath, and he's just chucking as he's going, paying no care, no attention to where he's putting these seeds. The law of averages states that it's sooner or later something will grow. It could be. But then, of course, does that not breed an indifference, like we've said? And then there's the cost. You see, seeds that don't grow, as he's walking along and he's casting them hiddledy-piddledy, they still take time, they still take effort. What if this parable is suggesting that the sower is a little unaware, rather than discerning and wise? Jesus even says to us, let anyone with ears listen. You see, when Jesus tells us this parable, I don't think he's discussing himself as the sower. I think a lot of what Jesus says and does in the Gospels, it doesn't fit with the almost careless nature of the sower from today's parable. In the parable, the sower sows anywhere and everywhere. They cast seeds hoping for a favourable outcome, but Jesus didn't do that. You see, Jesus, he's aware of the openness, the readiness, the receptivity. I think that's how I pronounce that, receptivity. Basically, people receiving him. Of the people he met. He evaluated the soil of their lives. He didn't judge. He never once came judging. He didn't categorize, what I'm saying is he didn't categorize us as good soil and bad soil. Anyone who came to him, whether they were a tax collector, a Pharisee, or a down and out. They were given a fair shake of the whip. They were given the same love and consideration that anyone else who came to him were given. None of us were judged to be bad. None of us were judged to be bad soil. He was discerning, of course, about which soil would be receptive to being sown at that time and which soil still needed time. We can look at things like the Romans. As Jesus is on the cross and dies, one of the Romans says, truly this man was the Son of God. He wasn't ready beforehand, but that seed was planted in his heart while Jesus was on that cross. You see, and there are other examples. When the hemorrhaging woman touched the fringe of Jesus' clothes, he felt her readiness to be healed. That's from Luke, I believe. When he asked the blind man, what do you want me to do for you? He was asking about that openness and that willingness to receive him. And again, from the Gospel of John, when we're told that many of his disciples turned back and no longer went with him, he saw their unreadiness. We see he's not mad at them. He doesn't think, oh, quitters, bloody slackers, go on, back to your homes. He doesn't do that. Instead, he turns to the ones that are with him still and he says, do you also want to go away? Or are you ready to stay with me? And of course, Peter, he answers, doesn't he, in the affirmative, and they stay. Because those that were stayed were ready. And I know what you're thinking. Whoa, hang on a minute now, Viking Vicar. If Jesus isn't the sower in today's parable, then who is? Good question. Not to drop us all in it, but we are. You and me. We are the sowers in today's parable. And every one of us has been gifted with hopes and dreams and things that carry these seeds of new life, gifts that we can use to go out there and to meet people. You see, we named those seeds at the beginning of this when we took that moment to think. And in doing so, we kind of outed ourselves a little bit as sowers. Kind of stitched you up a little bit there, didn't I? I'm sorry. But it's true. We're all sowers. And so, my friends, when and where and what will you sow? Don't just scatter your seeds everywhere. Don't be that one. That sower, he's wasteful. And honestly, he's hedging his bets. Don't do that. Target your efforts. Look for the good soil. And look for the soil that's not quite ready yet. It's not our place to give up on people. But we have to understand some people, they're not ready yet. Plant them in people, places, circumstances that are open, receptive and ready. And where do you see that? What do you see happening around you in the lives of people today that makes us think something could grow there? And maybe you think there's something in yourself that needs to grow. Or maybe you're looking around right now, wherever you are, and you think, actually, you know what? He could do with a bit of help. Actually, you know what? He could do with a chat. She could do with a friend today. I'm going to take her a cup of tea. See, planting the seeds. And then, of course, we're told in the prophet Isaiah's work, we're told, for as rain and snow fall from heaven and return not again, but water the earth, bringing forth life and giving growth. So, my friends, guess what? You can make a difference. If our lives, if our world, if anything is going to change, to grow and to flourish, to become something new, then it'll happen because, like Jesus told us, a sower went out to sow. And so, my friends, be discerning. What soil is ready and what soil still needs time. Nurture those dreams you keep within yourself, those seeds. Plant wherever you can when it's ready. Plant in the good soil. And then remember the prayer that we talked about at the start of this sermon. As I live each day, may I do my part to make one difference, to touch one heart, and through each day may it be my goal to encourage one mind and to inspire one soul. And in all you do, in all you plant, in everywhere you go, in all the soil you look at, remember one thing. 5 little words. You can make a difference. God bless, my friends, and take care.